The following is a sponsored program paid for by First Alliance Credit Union. Welcome to Good Money Moves, featuring Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome to Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell. I'm with Jenna Taubel, Director of Brand and Digital Member Experience with First Alliance Credit Union. Hi, Jenna.
Good morning.
Welcome back. Last week we talked about how to take a family vacation on a budget. What's our Good Money Moves topic this week?
Yeah, so today we are returning to the topic of financial goals once again, but this time I'd like to really talk about financial goals for a very specific group of people, and that is people who are in their 20s, young adults. And this is important because most people in their 20s are just getting established as independent adults. And so, you think about that time in your life, you're just getting your first, career job. You've probably started to live on your own at this point, paying your own rent, paying your own bills, trying to plan your future. And you're also fully in control of your own finances at this point, which can be really scary, but it's also a golden opportunity because you are young and have a lifetime to get moving in the right direction now. But if you have the right financial goals, you can definitely create a financial foundation for yourself. Again, that's going to last you the rest of your life.
And coming from a person who's a long ways from my 20s, please listen to this. I wish I had. And I know the idea that what you're doing in your 20s can have this huge impact decades down the road is a pretty big claim. Yeah. But I know that you can back this up. What's the first financial goal you should set if you were in your 20s? If you are in your 20s, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can probably guess this one, Andy, because we've talked about it many, many times on this show, and because it is such a foundational part of making good money moves, and that is to create your spending plan, or as older generations would call it, a budget.
Still a budget.
And we've definitely talked about this before, right? But when you call a budget a spending plan, it does help you put yourself in the mindset of how you're going to spend the money you have coming in, and not what you have to spend before you get to have fun. So it's just kind of a mental shift when you talk about it that way. But really, at the end of the day, no matter what you call it, the result is the same. You are putting yourself in control of your money. And this is why it is such a foundational piece of financial literacy, financial basics, right? So you'll have the peace of mind that comes from knowing you can pay all your necessary expenses, right? Like rent and food and gasoline, all of those things. And you'll also know how much you have available to spend on things like clothes and going out to eat and having that cup of coffee on your way to work in the morning. And even better, you'll be able to review that spending plan and change how you use your money as you see fit. So you can take away money from one category and add it to another category, like lowering how much you want to put into your eating out budget and have that go towards your entertainment portion of your spending plan. And you can allocate more money towards a financial goal. You might even decide to get rid of some expenses entirely to free up money, like ending some of your subscription plans so that you can focus your funds elsewhere. So, we've talked about, like I said, budgets many times on this show. But it really is just a great habit to get into at any age, even if you're well beyond your 20s or just entering your 30s, whatever it may be, it's not too late to start building this habit into your life. It's really not. But the benefit of starting in your 20s is that you'll get to enjoy the benefits of that spending plan so much sooner, which can help you save for other financial goals, can help you avoid going into debt over time, and overall just give you a really good peace of mind in general. And again, taking time to go through this and create that spending plan, create that budget for yourself helps you understand your own spending habits, first of all, but it also puts you in control of where your money's going because you can see it.
It is probably the single most important thing you can do.
Absolutely.
And
It's eye-opening to go through the first time.
I look back at my 20s and the money I wasted just because I didn't have a plan on incredibly stupid things.
Yeah.
That if I just had a little tiny bit of that knowledge, I would not have done.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
And you talk about the debts, and the overcharges and the, overdraw charges on your checking account and all the things you have to go through at that age before you learn the lesson of, yeah, that's not a good way to go before you stop doing it. Yep. Okay. So set a budget. Oh, I'm sorry. Spending plan. What's the next financial goal I should have if I'm in my 20s?
Yeah. So the next foundational piece of setting yourself up for success in your 20s is to start building up your emergency fund. And if you've ever had an emergency fund before, you know that part of the stress, or had an emergency, I should say, before, that part of the stress that comes with how much how much are you going to have to spend to take care of this problem, right? You just don't, it's an emergency. You don't know, you can't plan for it. So, but when you have that emergency fund, you can protect yourself against these unexpected expenses. You don't have to worry where that money's going to come from or how you're going to deal with it. Whether it's a car repair or a medical situation, or maybe something happens to your pet unexpectedly, whatever it may be, you can start to plan ahead because emergencies happen. They are going to happen in life. You're never going to avoid unexpected large expenses, no matter how well you live your life, how much you plan, you're not going to avoid them. Things just happen. And you have to have that emergency fund in place to help buffer your finances from taking such a negative impact when they do happen, losing your job or something like that, right? So emergency fund is that great financial goal that no matter how old you are, but when you start to build an emergency fund in your 20s specifically, you don't have to have as much income as you might if you were in your 30s or 40s to start really building that up, right? So that means and not only that, when you don't have as much income, right? Especially if you're just starting out in a professional career, you're at the bottom of the ladder, you're probably not making as much as maybe you hoped you would get fresh out of college or something. You definitely need to have that protection of that emergency fund in place more in your 20s than any other time, because you don't have that income coming in to help buffer those unexpected costs. And really, this is to help keep you from accruing debt, which then ultimately just takes years to pay off and could potentially, depending on the size of the emergency situation, could completely derail your finances and your plans for a long time.
It could derail your life. I mean, you could end up in a situation where you can't afford to put a roof over your head.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how dire it can get.
Yes.
I remember when I was that old, how foolish I was. And I did not have an emergency fund. I scoffed at the idea because, well, look at this. I've got these 2 credit cards. Add it all together, I have enough credit available to take care of whatever emergency it might be. I could just live on my credit cards if that happened. Which is exactly what I should have been trying to avoid.
Exactly.
Oh, live and learn. Live and learn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That brings us to an interesting question. How much should I save if I'm in my 20s?
Yeah, that's a great question. And financial experts say that your ultimate goal should be to have at least 6 months worth of your salary saved in your emergency fund. It used to be very common to hear 3 to 6 months worth of salary, but these days 6 months seems to be more of the norm, with some experts suggesting having anywhere from 8 months to a year's worth of salary saved in an emergency fund.
Oops, I don't have that.
Yeah. Now, most people in their 20s are probably starting from scratch. So I wouldn't worry too much about having 6 months of your salary saved up right away. That's a big goal, but you should be working towards it, right? I think at this point, a better goal is to simply get in the habit of regularly saving a percentage of each paycheck, whatever that is. 10% is probably a good starting point. Now, if your finances are really tight, though, again, going back to that spending plan, start trying to figure out how much you could reasonably set aside each month, even if it's $5. $5 is better than no dollars. Think of it as paying yourself when you putting money into savings. So, and an emergency fund is really meant to be tapped and replenished over time, because that's what it's there for, those emergencies, right? And the odds that you'll probably have to use that money in your emergency fund at some point before you reach that ultimate goal, it's going to happen, right? So don't get defeated if you build up. Let's say you build up and you've saved $1,000, then all of a sudden you have to pay for unexpected car repairs, and it wipes out half your savings. Don't feel defeated by that. That's exactly what it's there for. Just keep on going with your plan, and eventually you will make headway. The important thing is that you have to just keep putting money in your account, always, always, always.
And the worst thing, though, you could do is come up with some sort of rationalization to tap into that emergency fund for a non-emergency.
Exactly.
Like, hey, everybody's going down to spring break. I got to go. Don't do it.
Yep. Don't do it. Yeah. The true financial emergencies that if you don't take care of it, life will become seriously a worse situation.
You mentioned the car bills, and nowadays, if you lose a transmission on a vehicle, you're talking $4,000. You put that on a credit card at 18% interest, you're not going to like the outcome. That's for sure.
No,
now, if you had the $4,000 set aside, you're going to be upset about having to pay it, but you're going to be okay.
Exactly.
Have a spending plan. Have an emergency fund. Perfect. Well, continue with this on Good Money Moves. Financial goals for folks who are in their 20s, but also apply to everybody else for that matter. When we continue with Good Money Moves here on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking Good Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
It is Good Money Moves, and this week we're talking financial goals for younger people. You mentioned people in their 20s, Jenna, as they're really starting out.
Yeah.
Put things in the right place. Have the spending plan. Have an emergency fund. Man, if you did those two things, you're golden.
Yeah, you're off to a great start. Just those two things alone. But we got more.
Okay, so what's the next financial goal?
Yeah. So the other very important financial goal that you should have as you are starting your first kind of professional career is starting that retirement fund. The sooner you start saving for retirement, the more you can take advantage of two very powerful financial forces, and that is compound interest and time. Those two things together will make you wealthy if you do it right.
Remember that term, compound interest.
Yes.
It will be your best friend.
Yes, it is. And so both of these forces, and because your money grows exponentially faster because of this than if you just start saving for retirement, even in your 30s or 40s. If you haven't started and you are in your 30s or 40s, get started. It's not too late. You just would have been even better off if you started in your 20s. So your first step in saving for retirement should be to see whether your employer offers a retirement account like a 401k. And there are many other types of retirement accounts out there, but 401k is probably the most common. If they do offer that, take advantage of it and start contributing a percentage of your paycheck each month right away. Take advantage of it, especially if your employer matches your contributions in any way.
That's called free money.
It is. Yes. And the recommended amount is about 15%. But again, if finances are really tight, look over your budget and see what you can contribute. And if your employer offers a salary match, at least try to put in enough of your paycheck to meet that match. You want to take as much advantage of that as you possibly can. Like you said, free money. So once you've really started a retirement fund, you've done the difficult work. All you have to do is just keep putting in a percentage of your paycheck. And then every time you get a pay bump the amount slowly until you get to that 15% or even 20% or whatever you're comfortable with and your finances can absorb. The more, the better, because life only gets more expensive and you start to live long and people are living longer. So start saving now so that when you do retire, you can do so comfortably and financially soundly.
And if you do it early, and this is the part that often falls on deaf ears. If you get that 15% in when you're 25 or 26, it means that when you're 47 or 48, you're not looking at a situation where you have to bump it up to 30%.
Right.
To try to play catch up.
Exactly.
Because you will already be in such a fantastic position.
Mm-hmm.
I always think that and they won't do it, but I'm going to say, if you're 25 years old, go have a meeting with a financial advisor.
Yeah.
A person who works with people on their retirements.
Mm-hmm.
And have that person, he or she, show you some graphs.
Yeah, you'll be shocked at how much you can grow your retirement savings by starting in your 20s versus your 30s.
And if you ask me, that should be motivational for anyone to see what it is realistic, even at 15% at 25 years old.
Yeah.
You're talking about a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, great advice. And as all of this stuff, I wish I had heard it when I was I may have heard it. I wish I had listened. How's that?
Yeah.
So what's the next financial goal for the 20-somethings?
Yeah. Pay off your debts. Nothing drags down your finances like debt. So, and you have to pay off the amount that you borrowed no matter what, but you also have to pay the interest that your debt is accruing as well. So even worse, debt can drag down your credit score if you're not managing it well and ultimately hurt your ability to qualify for loans in the future, even buy a home. There's a lot tied up in credit scores and how you manage your debt. So if you do have some debt, come up with a debt repayment strategy and stick with it until your debt gets paid off. And we've talked about many strategies for this on the show before as well. Some really common ones that work for a lot of people are things like using the snowball strategy, where you pay off your smaller debt first. And then once you've paid that off, you use the money that you were paying on that debt to pay off the next smallest debt, and so on and so forth until you have just tackled all of your debts and paid them all off. And another good strategy that some people really like is called the avalanche strategy, where you pay off your largest first and then you use that money to pay off your next largest and so on and so forth. So just a reverse snowball. But you can also, if those aren't working for you or it's just not realistic, maybe you have so many debts that you just can't even keep track of them anymore. You can also look at a debt consolidation loan that can really help reduce the number of payments you're having to pay altogether, and typically will reduce your interest rate overall as well. So some benefits there to consider. We've talked about debt consolidation loans at length on this show before as well. Yep. So lots of different strategies out there when it comes to paying off your debt, but it should be something that you're committed to, whether that debt is credit card debt, student loan debt, a vehicle, whatever that debt is, be focused on getting that paid down as quickly as possible.
I have one friend who, unlike myself, did listen to this advice when he was in his 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And while the rest of us were wallowing in debt in our 30s because of life, he was paying cash for his vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it.
So good money moves for the younger people in their 20s. Also good advice if you're not in your 20s. Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union on good money moves, and we'll continue in a moment on News Talk 1340, KROC AM, and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM, and 96.9 FM. We're talking good money moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back. More good money moves. This week the topic is financial goals for younger adults. And Jenna, looking to you again, more advice for someone in their 20s. And as for the last segment of this week's program, do you have a final goal that somebody should be attaining or looking at if they're 20-something?
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of goes along with what we were talking about right before we took a break in paying off your debts, but that is to really start to build up your credit score. If you don't already have one established, or maybe it's not a great one because of some past financial choices you've made, especially if you're considering doing things like buying a house in the near future, or maybe you're thinking, hey, I've got a more stable job now. I'm done with college. I'm trying to get myself, solidified. I need a better vehicle to get me to and from work, those types of things. You're going to need a good credit score to do those things. And a good credit score is going to open a lot of doors for you along the way, whether, like I said, to get a loan, because you're going to get better terms and interest rates on a loan than you would if your credit score was more lower. But it can also determine whether or not you can get certain apartments or even a job in some cases. So pay attention to that. Start monitoring that if you're not already. You can really build your credit score in a number of ways, right? So one way is to get a credit card. And I know this sounds counterintuitive because we just said pay off your debts. But one way is to get a credit card and really start using it. So if you've never used a credit card before, you might want to limit it to small purchases and only use it a couple times a month. For instance, maybe you use it to buy your coffee every morning and then you pay off the balance in full when it comes due. So you're using it, you're building it up, but you're also paying it off in full on time every single month. That's the important part of this. That's how you build good credit. And it only takes 6 months to build up a solid credit score. We've talked about this before on the show as well. But some other interesting ways that you can start to do this is you can get what's called a credit builder loan. We've also talked about credit builder loans before on the show. This is a unique type of loan that doesn't give you the money that you borrow directly. Instead, what happens is, in the case of First Alliance Credit Union's credit builder loan, we put it into what's called a certificate of deposit for you. That will then mature at the same time that you're scheduled to pay that loan off. And once you've repaid the loan, we'll transfer the money in the CD to your checking account, and then you can use it because it's technically money that you have paid back and quote unquote saved. So this is a great way to show credit bureaus that you're a trustworthy borrower. And as a bonus, you start to feel more confident that the next time that you get a loan, that you can pay it off and manage that well. So it's a great way to kind of learn how to manage debt in a way that's a little bit safer. One of the best ways to really build up your credit score, though, is just make sure that, again, your bills are paid on time every month. And this might sound simple, but it means a lot to banks and credit unions when it comes time to loan you money. And this actually constitutes over 30% of your credit score is just paying on time every month.
And we circle all the way back to have that spending plan, and you won't have any trouble making your bills.
Exactly.
All right. Now, if one of 100 of you 20-somethings listen to this and goes through with this, I'm going to feel good.
Yes.
I hope it's a higher number than that. It's great. It's fantastic advice. Where were you, Jenna, when I was 20 years old? You were in kindergarten.
Yeah, probably.
All right. As always, there's a lot more information out there. on these topics, especially, I know, because we've covered a lot of them in past episodes in a more general sense. So if I'm 24, 25, whatever it is, and I heard a little bit of this, and I'm a little bit interested in maybe getting to go on making these good money moves, where can I find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage our listeners to visit our website, firstalliancecu.com. You can subscribe to our blog. We release new financial tips and advice every week straight to your inbox. We also have all the past episodes of this show that we've mentioned today, and those that we haven't mentioned today are also available at firstallianceu.com/podcast or on krocnews.com. You can also subscribe to Good Money Moves on Google, Apple, and Spotify. And if you love our show, take a minute to leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Of course, if you have a financial topic that you would like us to cover on Good Money Moves, please send me an email at marketing@firstalliancecu.com. And of course, I strongly encourage you to reach out to our team at First Alliance Credit Union. They are here to help you start making good money moves today.
That's First Alliance Credit Union, insured by NCUA and an equal housing lender. Jenna, thanks again for another great program.
Absolutely.
It's Good Money Moves, and we'll be back next week with another episode on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.